Um, there we are, right after lunch. Let's see if we can get you out of this after lunch dip. Talking about Teams Phone. Um, Teams Phone system deep dive. Well, in 15 minutes, as deep as we can get in 15 minutes. There's a number on the screen if you want to try it right now. See how that Teams Phone system works for you. I'm going to have a quick look at all the different components on Teams Phone, what you can do to use it, and how you can build a call flow to receive calls in your Microsoft 365 tenant, in your Teams setup. So a quick click to get focus on the screen. Quick basic terminology. I'm going to be talking about some stuff in this session. The PBX, the Private Branch Exchange, that's basically your phone system, right? Your old-fashioned telephone system that you use to receive calls, transfer calls, and stuff like that. We'll be talking about PSTN, the publicly switched telephone network. Those are basically your landlines. Your dial tone, your carrier to connect your Teams phone system or any phone system to the public telephony network. And we have the SBC, the Session Border Controller. And that's the physical virtual device you use to connect your PBX to the PSTN. It basically transfers voice over IP Teams into the landlines you use to make your calls. To get started with Teams Phone, or basically anything in the Microsoft world, you'll need some licenses. Licenses are always the hardest part with any Microsoft technology, and that's the same for Teams Phone. To use Teams Phone, you'll need a Teams Phone System license. If you buy the Microsoft 365 E5 license, you already have it. If you have E1, E3, you'll need to purchase a separate add-on to use Teams as your phone system. That's one way to do calling from Teams. Another way is through conferencing. We have the Teams conferencing add-in, the audio conferencing add-in, that will allow you to dial into any Teams conference. So when you create that Teams invite, you'll have that number to dial, a local number and a link to click on to get any local number anywhere in the world. So you can dial in for the audio of your conference. And for the organizer of that conference call, it also gives you the availability to dial out. So you can call any landline from a Teams meeting. Only from a Teams meeting, because it's meant for use in meetings. You can't use it to just make a simple call. You can only use it in a meeting. So for the full-blown phone system functionality, you will need that phone system license. And that phone system license will give you just that, a phone system. You have what is compared to your PBX, your basic telephone system. You put it into your cabinet, and you have a phone system. That doesn't connect you to the telephone network. You just have a phone system. You can call internally, but you can't call out or receive any calls because you don't have that dial tone yet. So you need something to get the dial tone into your Teams environment. 3 ways of doing so. You can use the Microsoft calling plans. That's what Microsoft wants you to use because that's how they make money. You can use Operator Connect, and you can use the direct routing. For the calling plans, Microsoft will be your telephony provider. You will get your numbers from Microsoft. If you already have some existing phone numbers, you can port them into the Microsoft ecosystem. They will be your provider. For anyone that will use your Teams phone system, you will need one of those calling plans. And I call in these small little prepaid bundles. You can choose if you can only allow national, regional calling, or also international calling. But you will need one of those calling plans for each and every user. Even if that user doesn't dial out that much, because he's just receiving incoming calls as a service desk, for example, they will still need that calling plan add-on. I believe, I don't know if it's generally available already, but Microsoft is working on calling plans with 0 credits. So you don't pay for all the outbound minutes that you won't use. You can do mix and match. You can combine those calling plans, right? If you buy 10 of those calling plans for 10 users, you can have one user use up all the minutes in those 10 dialing plans. but it's still a bit of a hassle because you need to do some calculations on how much do I need, how many users do I have, and will the business case work out for me? If you don't have enough minutes in your prepaid dialing plan, you can add some communication credits. Basically, you whip out your credit card and you say, well, if I'm over my minutes, charge this one. That can also be used in combination with the conference plan for the dial-out minutes you make in your conference. So with those calling plans, Microsoft is your provider. That does give you some benefits. It's a single point of contact for your entire telephony solution. If there's any problem, Microsoft is the one to call because they provide the phone system, they provide the connection, they provide the telephone numbers. It's easy to manage, of course, because you can do everything just from the Teams portal. It's all there. But it also has some downsides because Microsoft is not really a telephony provider. It's just something they do on the side. You might have your existing numbers with your existing carrier, and you're pretty fond of that existing carrier. You have a good relationship with it. You just want to reuse those numbers and have it connected to Microsoft Teams. You can do that. One of the ways to do so is using direct routing. You use a session border controller, a device with an existing phone line. It can be either a physical phone line or ISDN or something like that. Or you can use existing voice over IP numbers, voice over IP connections, SIP trunks, and have it connected to Microsoft Teams. This is something you do for yourself. You host that session border controller. It's your responsibility. So if you run into any problems with your Teams phone system, now you have a few people to contact. The problem can be on the Microsoft end, within the Teams phone system environment. The problem can be with your carrier, your Vodafone or British Telecom or KPN or whatever, that provides the telephone numbers. And the problem can be in between, in the session border controller, connecting those two. And that's your responsibility. So there's a lot more troubleshooting going on if you go the direct routing path. You can simplify it a bit because, of course, you can have your provider host that session border controller for you. It's not your responsibility anymore. It's session border controller as a service. For providers, they can use what they call derived trunks. They set up one big session border controller, or maybe two for some failover possibilities, in a data center, and they have all their clients connecting to that same session border controller. That minimizes the hassle for setup. You just inherit the main configuration that the partner has made in his environment. But it does require some configuration with domain names. Session border controller uses TLS for encryption. Certificates need to match the domain name. DNS is always the problem if you run into anything. Same goes for telephony. There is one option in between. Operator Connect. This is basically the best of both worlds. The best of the calling plans from Microsoft combined with your own operator. There are a few operators that already offer Operator Connect. I believe in the Netherlands there's just one at this time. But it's quickly expanding. What it does is you connect your operator to the Teams Admin Center. You register that Operator Connect connection. And then you can use that same team portal to import or activate, acquire your telephone numbers. So that operator will fix that for you. You can use your Teams Admin Center that you know and love to connect numbers to users and stuff like that. And it may be even a better business case than using the calling plans from Microsoft. Because depending on the carrier, there's no requirement to purchase any usage credits. You just say, well, I'm using Operator Connect. I need 20 or something phone numbers. I need to make 10 simultaneous calls at the maximum. And that's what you pay for. So you don't need to pay for the usage credits that you pay for when you purchase a calling plan, even if you don't use it. Currently, the next big thing is the Mobile Connect for Microsoft Teams. That will give you the possibility to have Operator Connect combined with your SIM card. So you can be reached on one single telephone number, both on your mobile device as in your Teams client. There are some operators already selling those. Not in the Netherlands, I believe, but I believe in the UK that's already live. In the US it is. And that's a great way to be able to provide your clients with one single telephone number, no matter where you connect from. Of course, you can receive those calls in your Teams client on your mobile phone as well. But then you're using the data plan of your mobile phone to do the calling. If you receive that call basically on the telephone number on your SIM card, you won't use any data. It's just a phone call. One of the cool things with the Session Border Controller, as the big boy solution, is that you can use media bypass. Basically, a telephone call consists of two parts. The voice over IP call. It's the session initiation protocol, SIP, the signaling. Hey, this guy is trying to call you. This is his telephone number. Start ringing the phone. And you have the actual audio stream, RTMP, real-time media protocol, with basically the conversation itself. With that media bypass, you can route your audio directly through the Session Border Controller. What does that mean? Let's say we have a big office. For all the MCTs giving training, either online or physical. This small little Wacom tablet, I believe it costs around €30 or euros. It's perfect for stuff like that. Big whiteboard and the ability to draw anything you like. So let's say we have an office. I'll paint a roof and a little chimney so you know it's an office. And it's connected to the PSTN, the publicly switched telephone network. And on the other end, it's connected to Teams. If you want to use this to draw, you need to learn how to draw better than me. Sorry for that. And you have that Session Border Controller. And that Session Border Controller is in your office because that's where your phone line comes in. Now let's say we have a Teams user, someone using Microsoft Teams to make calls. Of course, he connects to the Teams cloud environment. The Teams cloud environment connects to the Session Border Controller, and you can make and receive your calls. What if this user is actually physically in the office? The phone call will come in from the publicly switched telephone network into that Session Border Controller. It will go over the internet out to the Teams cloud environment. And from the Teams cloud environment, it will go back over that same internet connection to that user in that same building to receive that phone call. You're using that internet connection twice. One for the connection from the SBC to the Teams cloud, and one from the Teams cloud back into the Teams client. The SBC is smart enough to say, well, for that session initiation protocol, the signaling part, I will use that route. But for the actual audio, the RTMP, I can see that this client is in the same network as my Session Border Controller. So I will make a direct connection. The audio will flow directly from the Session Border Controller into the Teams client. So you don't use an internet connection anymore. If you have 20, 30, 40 people in your office making calls all day, every day, that Session Border Controller can be a good solution to minimize the load on your internet connection. So you have three options. You have the calling plan, you have direct routing, this option with the Session Border Controller, and you have Operator Connect. It's just a business case, a calculation on what will I use, what's the best solution, both technically and financially, to choose from my environment. Now let's start building some call flows. Your phone call comes in, your number is connected to Microsoft Teams, and you want to receive that call. How will you handle that incoming call? Of course, you can connect a telephone number directly to a user. So when you call it, their phone starts ringing. But in most environments, you want a more complex solution. There are a few ways of building that call flow. We use auto attendance and call queues. Those are two different solutions that complement each other in setting up your calling. For auto attendance, you can provide a schedule. based on office hours, holidays, when's your company actually able to receive calls? What are your opening times? Outside of office hours, you may want to provide a different message. You can't answer this call right now. Please leave a message or call back when we're open. You can have some greeting messages, IVRs, integrated voice response. Those little menus we all hate and love. Press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, stuff like that. You can do directory search. If you don't want all your users in your company to have their own direct inbound number, you can have one direct inbound number and have the IVR ask the caller, hey, who do you want to speak to? And based on speech to text, they will listen to the response, find that user in the global address book, and transfer the call to that specific user. It's pretty sweet. I used to call auto attendants basically a digital receptionist. But after telling that to a few receptionists a few times, they start kicking me out for that. But that's basically what it is. It will take the call and transfer it to the right person based on the menu, based on opening hours, based on the directory search part. The auto attendant will not be the actual endpoint of the call. It will just pick it up and transfer it. Of course, one of those transferring options can be to just disconnect the call after playing a message, but it won't actually be the endpoint of any actual call. So how does setting up one of those auto attendants work? This is my own Teams admin center with my own telephone numbers. I have a mix of phone numbers here, both Microsoft calling plans and Operator Connect. And Reach was nice enough to provide me with some Operator Connect telephone numbers. This is the actual interface you use to create new telephone numbers, assign them to the right place. Basically, from here, you can ask to add a phone number. You need to select your country or region. Well, of course, I'm in the Netherlands right now. There we go. And you can select the number type you want. There are various number types in Microsoft Teams, and that's important because it determines how you can use that number. A user number speaks for itself, is for a user, basically a subscriber number. A direct number directly assigned to any user in your Teams environment. All the other numbers are what they call service numbers, and you can connect that to a call queue or an auto attendant. You can't connect a service number to a user and vice versa. So you need to think about the number you're requesting and what you'll be using it for to make sure you select the right number type. There we go. Let's select the user number. I can select the operator. If I select Microsoft, it will use the Microsoft calling plans. But I can select any of these operators if I want to use Operator Connect. We ask for 2 numbers. It will calculate the amount of numbers you can request based on the amount of phone system licenses you have. It does some calculation based on the number of users plus 10% is the number of user numbers you can get or something like that. You can always have a few numbers to spare. You have more numbers, you can request more numbers than you have actual users. So if you onboard some new personnel, you can have that number already there, ready to be assigned to them. And I need to provide the city I'm in. This will determine the first part of the phone number, the netnummer, as we say in Dutch, the region code. It doesn't have all the Dutch cities in this list. I don't know what that's like for other countries. But basically, I live in Heemskerk. It's not in this list. But in this list is Beverwijk. It has the same location, the same area number. Even if it's 2 different cities, they can have the same. They can share the same area code. So you might need to do some thinking on which area you should select there. If you can't find your own city, think of a different city that has the same area code, so you can use that one. I'll need to provide a location. I believe it's this one for me. Yep. There we go. This is the location that your physical user would be in. They use it for emergency dialing. If you dial an emergency number, 911, 112, 999, they can send this location to the actual emergency dispatcher so they can send the ambulance the right way. They don't use it in this region. I do believe they use it in the US. If it's really useful, I don't know, because it's Teams. You can log in your Teams client from anywhere. Your phone call is not necessarily coming from that location that you specified here. And of course, you can do some smart stuff with that as well, with some dynamic lookup based on IP address and stuff like that. But you need to provide this location, otherwise you can't request those numbers. It has found the area code for the location I entered, and by pressing next, I need to give it a name, of course. New order, MCT Summit, so I would know when I ordered this number. And when I click next, it will contact the Microsoft phone number database. We'll check if there are any numbers available, and it will request a number for me. It can take some time before the number actually becomes available for you. Using a number with Operator Connect works the same way. I just don't select Microsoft as my carrier. I select Enreach or British Telecom or whatever. If you use direct routing with your session border controller, you're in control. You need to get the numbers from your operator, configure your SBC to use those numbers and to send them to Teams. You don't do anything through the portal if you're using direct routing. So those out of attendance, how do those work? Let's get one. This is the Dutch one. I need the other one for my demo. There are a few settings you can configure within that auto attendance. First of all, of course, there are phone numbers connected to this auto attendant. It's a number you can dial, and if you dial it, you will be connected to the auto attendant, and it will greet you the way you configure in these settings. Optionally, you can set an operator. If someone comes into that little phone menu and can't have his question answered, can press the, I believe it's the 9 button or the 0 button, and it will be transferred to that operator, a physical human being, to answer your call. We need to set up the time zone because we are working with office hours. You can specify you're open from 8 p.m. to or 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. But it would be great if that's the right time zone. Otherwise, your call flow won't work. And you can set up the language, and the language determines the text-to-speech and speech-to-text options within the auto attendant. You can use text-to-speech to provide greeting messages and stuff like that. And of course, Teams needs to know what language you're writing that in. And the other way around, if you want to use the directory search option, so someone can say a reply instead of dialing 1 or 2 or 3, you need to transfer it to the right language. Not all voice, the voice inputs option is not available in all languages. I've selected English for this one. If I select Dutch, I won't be able to use those voice inputs because they haven't created that speech-to-text functionality for the Dutch language just yet. Should be coming. So those are some basic settings. Now for the call flow. How do you want to handle that incoming call? First off is the greeting. Should we play a greeting message? If someone dials this number, what's the first thing they should hear? In this case, welcome at the MCT Summit. Using text-to-speech, the Microsoft phone system will pronounce this text, and you will just hear it. And in a pretty decent way as well. You can't hear that it's a computerized voice. But of course, you can record your own greeting message, little MP3 file, upload it and use that. Or just don't say any greeting at all. That's the first thing that happens when the call comes in. The next step is how will we route that call? What will we do with that call once we've welcomed it? In my case, I will play some menu options. And of course, those need to be said to the caller. They need to hear what options they have. Again, I use text-to-speech to do so. Press 1 for sales, press 2 for support. But you can also just disconnect the call. Maybe you don't want to handle that incoming call, just play a message and that's it. Or you can redirect the call directly to someone. With the IVR option, the menu options, you decide where that call gets redirected based on the input from the user, from the person calling. So apart from setting up that message, press 1 for this, press 2 for this, you need to set up, okay, where will we redirect this call if someone presses that 1 or that 2 or that 3? In this case, for 1, for sales, I redirect to a call queue. We will look at call queues a bit later on. For 2, I can redirect basically to anyone in the organization, directly to that single user. And for 3, I redirect to a voicemail. This voicemail box is connected to a team in Microsoft Teams. So all the members in that team will see that there's a voicemail waiting for them, can listen to that voicemail, and call back the person who left it, for example. And of course, I have the directory search active. Dial by name, dial by extension. You can say, I'd like to speak to Ralph, please. Teams phone system will hear that. We'll look in the address book, we'll find Ralph and transfer the call to that person. One of the advantages of the auto attendant was that you can set up office hours. This is where you set them up. What's the actual weekly recurrence of the opening hours of your company? Do you have any lunch breaks somewhere around noon? Are you closed on Sundays and Saturdays, for example? You can configure those, and then of course you need to set up what the call flow will be after those office hours. They differ from the regular call flow because you're closed. You can't handle that call right now. So you can either play a greeting, currently we're closed, better luck next time, and then disconnect the call, redirect the call, or play a different menu than you would during office hours. If you're calling for an emergency, please press 1. If you're not calling for an emergency, we will disconnect your call. So these are basically the daily, weekly, recurring opening hours for your office. Maybe you have a holiday every now and then. You can set that up as well. Holidays, specify the date, and the way calls should be handled during such a holiday. Those are dates. Those are actual dates. So for example, Christmas, you specify Christmas as December 25th, December 26th, including the year. It's just a calendar picker where you select the actual date. So you need to reset those each and every year. Because you also have holidays, Eastern. It's not always on the same date every year. Of course, you can automate that. There are some PowerShell scripts to do so. And if you configure the holiday, you've set the actual dates for that holiday, you can reuse it in every auto attendant that you have. So you just need to set it once and you can reuse it everywhere. Next part, the dial scope. That dial by name functionality in the auto attendant is pretty sweet. You can just say a name and you will be transferred to that specific person. This is what Microsoft used to use for their Redmond office. They won't give every single person in that office a direct telephone number. You will need to get through this electronic receptionist, say the name, and you'll be redirected. That worked pretty great until someone found out that you can use that same technology, call the number, say, I'd like to speak to Bill Gates, please. And you would be redirected to Bill Gates. That's when Microsoft introduced the dial scope, where you can exclude or include specific persons from being able to be dialed that way. A call queue and an auto attendant in Teams is basically just an account. It needs a user account to exist in Teams. It's what we call a resource account. You'll need a license for that. Of course, it's Microsoft. You'll need a license for everything. But this is a free license. You don't need to pay for resource account licenses. And those accounts are basically just used to connect the telephone number to the auto attendant. You can only assign a telephone number to an actual account existing in Teams. So we'll need an account for an auto attendant. You can use multiple resource accounts. So you can have multiple telephone numbers connected to the same auto attendant. Maybe you will have a local number for different countries that still run into the same auto attendant for answering those calls. And the final part of the auto attendant are the authorized users. You can authorize a user to change the settings of an auto attendant without them having actual Teams admin rights, for example. They will just be able to change the settings for this auto attendant instance. So that's the auto attendant. Let me check. I have a telephone number connected. Let's see if we can see how that works. Basically, this should be a working microphone, right? Yeah, okay. Let's call that number and see how it does. 342 560 and have it on speakerphone.
Welcome at the SPT Summit. Sorry, I couldn't find anyone with this name. Press 1 for sales. Press 2 for support. Press 3 to leave a message.
I'm pressing 1.
Sorry, we cannot connect your call at the moment.
That will redirect me to the actual call queue. I'm in that call queue, but I'm presenting my screen. So my status in Teams is busy, at least not able to answer that call. So there's no one there actually in that call queue to answer that call for me. That's why I will be disconnected. Resume my recording, otherwise I will be yelled at afterwards. So that's how you hear the actual announcement, the welcome message, once you dial into that auto attendant. That was text-to-speech. I entered it in text. Teams pronounced it for me. Sounds pretty decent. The other option for your call flows is the call queues. Call queues are basically a virtual waiting room for all the people dialing in. They will be told to have a seat, and one of the agents will come and pick them up out of that waiting room, one by one. So this is how you route a call to an actual agent based on the settings you provide. And of course, there are some options there for call overflow and timeouts. If you have 15 people in your waiting room and you know you can't handle them at the right time, what should we do with the call? Should we disconnect them, redirect them to a voicemail, anything like that? And you can even base such a call queue on a Teams channel. You don't have to manually assign agents to that call queue. Everyone in the team is able to receive calls. And of course, we have the options here as well for that. Let me cancel this one and go to the call queues option. I have a call queue right here. Again, a call queue can have a resource account. You can have a call queue be reached directly from outside of your company. Assign a telephone number to it and you can call it. Or you can route to it through an auto attendant. And you can give your agents the option to call outbound using the phone number connected to your call queue. If you have a service desk environment, you might want your agents to dial out using its service number. So that's what the receiving end sees on their screen, not a direct number from that user, but the number connected to the call queue. So when they call back on a missed call, they just get in the queue instead of being connected to that agent directly. And of course, we set the language here as well. Note, no time zone settings for call queues that we did see for the auto attendants, because in call queues, we don't have the logic to do business hours, holidays and stuff like that. We can provide a greeting. You have reached our queue. One moment, please. We will come and pick you up as soon as possible. you don't need to do that. Maybe your call comes in from an auto attendant. The auto attendant will play the actual greeting, so you don't need the greeting in the call queue. And the music on hold. You can either play the default music on hold or use an audio file with any annoying sound you want. Be aware, if you use any audio you provide by yourself, you need to own or at least pay for the rights for that music. You can't just use any pop song as music on hold unless you pay for it. I know in the Netherlands there are checks being done on that. Some organization calling random numbers, being put on hold, hearing a certain song and saying, well, we're going to send you an invoice for that because you don't have the rights. So that's something you need to think about.
Okay, het hadden before regardless of still have devices.
Yeah, you do have some stuff with open source things and live stream music and yeah. A bit of weirdness, yeah. For the call answering, call comes into the queue. What will you do? I've selected the team to act as the agent, but you can also select individual users or groups. Those are the agents that will actually receive that call. And you can use conference mode. Note, you can only use it within Teams. You cannot use it for agents using Skype for Business to connect to your telephone system if you're still using that. What conference mode does, previously, if you got a call into a call queue in Teams or Skype for Business, and you were being transferred to an agent, they would actually transfer you to that agent. So when you were picked up from the call queue, your call would be put on hold, be transferred, and then the agent could pick it up and answer the call. There's a slight delay in that. There could be 2 or 3 seconds where the actual transfer happens of silence for the person calling in. The music on hold will stop because you're out of the queue, but you're not yet connected to the agent. That's confusing. In conferencing mode, what it does, it will take the call, connect you to the queue, play the music on hold, and once it will connect you to an agent, it will set up a 3-way conference between you, the actual call queue, the waiting room, and the agent. And once the agent is connected into the call queue will leave the conversation. You have just 2 people remaining without an actual transfer. It will set up a conference and disconnect one of the parties out of it. That will remove the 2 or 3 seconds of silence when the call is being reconnected or redirected. It's a lot better end user experience than the basic transferring. Agent selection. If we have 5, 6, 7 agents in that call queue, how will we get that call to the right person? You can use attendant routing, and there is always some extra information behind the little information mark. Attendant routing will just route the call to the entire call queue. The first one to pick up the call, to answer the ringing phone, will be the one to get the call. But you can also use serial routing. Route the call to agents one by one. If the first one doesn't pick up, we'll move on to the next one. Round robin. The CEO will select each and every time. We'll start with a different one. It does have some logic that on a day, each agent will get the same amount of calls, preferably. And the longest idle. The person who hasn't received the call for the longest period of time will get the next call. It will give your agent some time to wrap up after they finish their call. Complete a service desk ticket before they get the next one. Presence-based routing, where I ran into just a few minutes ago with my demonstration. I'm presenting. My team status is set to do not disturb. I won't get a call. You can override that. If you turn presence-based routing off, it will not look at your team's presence for delivering the call. Even if you're on do not disturb, you can still get that call. Can come in handy in an organization where people use their calendar to block specific things, specific time frames in their calendar to do something that will leave them set as busy in Teams. They won't get any calls just because they have something in their calendar. So you can override that. And you can tell if it's okay if your agents can opt out of taking calls, take themselves out of that call queue for a short period of time, so they can do something else. Then we can have some exceptions. Call overflow. I have a waiting room and I specify, well, in this waiting room, I can fit 10 simultaneous calls. What should happen with call number 11 or 51 in this case? I can disconnect it, or I can redirect it to a different queue, a different user, an operator, a voicemail box, basically anything you want. And the same goes for the timeout. I can specify how long people should wait in this queue for the longest. In this case, it's 2 minutes. If someone has been waiting for 2 minutes and 1 second, what will I do? Will I disconnect it, play a message, redirect the call to someone else? So you can provide the best experience to the person calling. They won't have to wait 20 minutes because I specified if they're waiting for 5 minutes, I will redirect them to a different call queue that has more people available to answer that call, for example. In this case, in the call queue I've set up here, I can see that no agents are actually signed in. That will give you an idea of how many people can answer the calls and if you have selected the right settings for the call handling. And for the call queues again, I can use those authorized users to handle that call. So you can combine those auto attendants and call queues to set up the call flow for your organization. You can include teams, not the client, but the actual teams in Microsoft Teams. Select a channel to define your agents. This call should go to this Teams channel and all the people in that channel will receive that call. Combine that with a dynamic group and you can have some pretty easy management. Set up a team based on a dynamic group for your service center employees, and based on their job title, they will be in that group, they will be in that team, so they will be in that call flow. And if you want, you can include that shared voicemail, so the voicemail will be delivered to the team instead of to individual users. Best practice, as far as I'm concerned, always start your call flow with an auto attendant. Don't have calls connect to a call queue directly. You can just have an auto attendant just play the welcoming message and then transfer it to the call queue without any menus and stuff like that. But it will give you the flexibility of using office hours, holidays, and stuff like that to be more granular in how you answer those calls. If you're using music on hold, think about the music rights. Keep it simple. You don't need 4 or 5 or 6 different auto attendants. If you have 4 or 5 or 6 different locations, you can just have one auto attendant with one call queue attached to it, but with 4 or 5 different phone numbers. It makes it easier for you. And the best way to set up your call flows, draw your solution. Think about what calls will enter your organization, where they will come in, how you will handle them with auto attendants, call queues. Use some sticky notes in different colors, place them on the wall, and draw lines to see which call goes where. It's the easiest way to design the entire call flow solution. If you run into any issues, there are a few troubleshooting tools. Of course, we have the network analyzer. Your call gets delivered to the Teams endpoint. Teams endpoint needs network connection, internet connection, preferably without any VPN connections, directly into the Microsoft data center. Use a network analyzer to see if that works well. We have call detail reports, call quality dashboard. Call quality dashboard is a bit limited. You only have the predefined reports, basic short time frames. But you can tap into the call quality dashboard database using Power BI and build your own reports. If you do any direct routing with the session border controller, you have some troubleshooting for direct routing in the Teams admin center, but you might need some additional stuff. With that session border controller, you have the Teams cloud on one end, session border controller in between, and your operator at the other end. So apart from the session border controller connecting into Teams, you have the session border controller connecting to your operator. So those are 2 different connection points with different set of log files. There's this nice little person holding up a 3-minute left sign. So I think it's time to wrap up. Are there any questions on using Teams yet? Yeah, for the direct research. If there's 2 people with the same name, yeah. Microsoft Teams will prompt you. Oh, I found these results. Do you want to speak to person A or person B? Press 1 or press 2. If there's 2 people with exactly the same name, yeah, you will need to find a way to differentiate between them. Maybe by including their departments in their display name, for example.
See that in Denmark.
Huh?
You get that a lot in Denmark.
In Denmark, yeah.
Not being the same.
Yeah, I guess in the Netherlands we will have Jan de Vries as well quite a few times.
Skills-based routing.
Does it support skills-based routing? No. No, if you want skills-based routing, you need a third-party solution. Not that I know of, no. Basically, the Teams phone system will provide you with a phone system. If you want any advanced functionality, call recording, skills-based routing, contact center functionality, you will need third-party solutions like Office 365 Connect, Anywhere Connect, 365, stuff like that.
I use Dynamics 365 customer service OmniChat.
Yeah.
With ACS.
Yeah.
It doesn't do call recording.
Sorry,
It doesn't do call recording, right?
It doesn't record a call either. No. Well, you can record your calls, of course, by just hitting the record button, just like you would in a meeting. You can't have any automatic recording for every call that you make. There is an API that Microsoft provides for third parties to give you that ability, but you need a third party to tap into that and do the automatic recording. Oh. Anything else? No? Right on time. If you want any more information, this is my name. This is I believe it's my LinkedIn, Twitter stuff, anything. Or just look me up somewhere in the following few days. I'll be here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the sponsors for making it possible to have this event. I've seen a lot of nice sessions already, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more in the next days. Enjoy your time and enjoy your stay in the Netherlands. Thanks.